Now, as we were hearing in our headlines, figures seen by the BBC suggest that more than 23,000 people who took out 100% mortgages are in negative equity.
The news comes as the latest housing market survey suggests transactions are at a 30-year low. Well, we can talk to Robin Amlett, who is a senior editor at the financial website moneyextra.com, and we're also joined from our studio in Edinburgh by Ian McWhirter, the political columnist for The Herald. Good evening to you both. First of all, to you in the studio, Robin, what do you think the prospects are right now? It's all looking pretty bleak for us, isn't it?
It is looking a bit worrying for the housing market, but I think what makes this situation different from any other downturn we've seen in housing is that it's actually come from the lenders. It's come from the lenders reducing the amount of money that's available. They're asking people for much bigger deposits where they're making their mortgages available, and a lot of mortgages are no longer available. We've seen the number of mortgage products available in the marketplace go down from something like 15,000 different types of mortgage last year to under 4,000 now. This is something that's come from the lenders. It's not something that's come from the housing market, which is not to say that house prices didn't need to come down. They did. A bubble had grown in housing, and it was going to pop sooner or later. The question is how much fallout there is going to be for people. And I have to say, I think I may disagree with your other guest as to exactly how bad things are going to get. But the fact that there is a change in the weather is something we both agree on.
Well, let's ask Ian McWhirter, how bad are things going to get? You're pretty gloomy, aren't you?
Well, you heard it there. There's been a bubble, and the bubble has burst. Take any figure like Council of Mortgage Lenders says that house prices will be down about 11% this year. The International Monetary Fund says that British house prices are 30% overvalued. Even the government says it'll be at best 10% reduction this year. Now, falling house prices is a good thing. House prices have been far too high for far too long. However, what we have to bear in mind here is what effects this will have on the last people in to the housing market, and particularly to those people, young first-time buyers, who are being encouraged still to buy flats, small flats in city centres, which are tanking in value. If you look at the auctioneering figures, it's absolute carnage. These flats are going down by on average 30%, and many of the mortgage companies are refusing to lend on them. People should be warned, don't buy a flat just now.
So what would you say, Robin Amlett? Would you be crazy to be investing in property right now?
I don't think you'd be crazy to be investing in property overall. What's being said is correct, that there are the wrong kinds of property around that people have got into. The last people in are always the people to suffer when a bubble bursts. I think what makes this situation different from a lot of the past situations, first of all, unlike the 1990s, we have more people now on repayment mortgages rather than interest-only mortgages and endowment policies, and we know endowment policies went wrong as well. But the fact that you're on a repayment mortgage means you're reducing the amount you owe, which means that even if you go into negative equity, you're cushioning the impact of it.
And it gives you room for manoeuvre as well.
It gives you some room for manoeuvre. The point about property and the wrong kind of property being built, there was specifically a bubble in buy-to-let property, and a lot of these small flats were being built in the wrong places for people to invest in, and they're going to get burned as well. Overall, though, we do still have a structural shortage of housing in this country. That remains. The problem is that a lot of property is not now going to be built in the right places where perhaps it should have been.
Ian McWhirter, you say it's not a bad thing that house prices were overvalued, and yet the problem with this country is that homeowners use the value of their homes really as a kind of currency, so it has such a huge impact on the rest of the economy, doesn't it?
Well, this is precisely the problem, because historically interest rates have been kept too low for too long. People have been using their houses as kind of cash machines. They've been relying on that to finance current expenditure, buying new cars, taking holidays, home extensions, thinking that this is money which is coming from nowhere, whereas in fact it's not coming from nowhere. It's debt. And as house prices fall, people will discover suddenly the houses are not worth anything like what they thought they were worth. They can't rely on this value going up year on year, and they'll find that they're being asked to remortgage now by many companies at a much higher rate, and sometimes they're being asked to put up a deposit as well. Now, as I say, people who've been in the housing market for 10, 5 years even, they're no problem. They can afford to take the hit. The problem, and what really worries me, is that the government is still encouraging first-time buyers into the market, giving them incentives like Home Start, Home Buy, which encourage them to take on precisely these city centre flats which are becoming toxic properties. They cannot be sold. People who take these flats on now will certainly be in negative equity within 18 months. And I think the government should be recognising that.
OK, well, thank you both very much for joining us, Ian McWhirter and Robin Amlôt. Thank you.